The first check came as proof that I was finally worth something. Only later would I realize that it didn't open any doors, it just tied me down. The check lay on the table, held down by a salt shaker so that the draft wouldn't blow it away. Thin paper with the impactor logo and an amount that doesn't make an ordinary person a hero, but for us means breathing a sigh of relief. For 5 minutes, I just watched as the morning light crept up to the numbers, as if warming them with its heat. The door creaked. My mother came in, still wet from the drizzle, smelling of coffee from the gas station and detergent. She saw my gaze, the salt shaker, the paper. "Danny, what's this?" I slid the check toward her. She took it carefully, as if it were glass. "Is it real?" "It's real. Commission from Impactor. First package." She ran her finger over the numbers, sat down, and covered her eyes with 2 fingers. These weren't the tears we shed when the power was cut off for 3 days. These were different, the kind that untie the knot in your chest. "Give me a minute," she whispered. We were silent. From the street came the sound of a pickup truck starting. Somewhere a trash can lid slammed. Something simple settled in me. Not triumph, opportunity. "How much will go to taxes?" she asked, back to her business tone. "I'll figure it out with Avery, my mentor." She promised to help with the forms. "Avery," Mom repeated slowly, getting used to the name. "Be careful with these new things of yours." "I'm happy for you, Danny." Her palm rested on the back of my head, the same brief gesture she made before the school bus. Mary appeared quietly in the doorway. She was always like that, like a white cat. You only saw her when the light fell just right. Small headphones, a t-shirt with paint stains. "Is this it?" She nodded at the check. "Looks like it. The first one." She glanced at me, and I saw a cog click in her gaze. The one that pieces together a story from details. "Are you going to shoot a story? If so, not in the kitchen. I'll give you a microphone. And the light at an angle so there are no shadows under your eyes." We laughed. "We have a producer at home," Mom said. "An editor," Mary corrected her, but the corners of her lips betrayed her. The 3 of us had breakfast, oatmeal to fill us up, and conversations about sales at the store, plumbing, and Mary's deadlines for her school video. Yesterday, I was turning phrases from the Impactor chat in my head. "Pain is fuel. You are your best asset." Today, there was room in my head for something simpler. "Are there eggs?" When my mom left for her shift, I washed the dishes and hid the receipt in my hoodie pocket. I love this rhythm. Water, sponge, plate. Thoughts line up on their own. I didn't know yet about the big machine, neat phrases, and how to pause correctly on someone else's pain. I just wanted to read the word commission above my name again. Danny Cole. At school, they wrote, "Slow start, good finish" under it. Teacher Sawyer said then, "You're not lazy. You just don't see the trajectory." Today I had the trajectory in my hands. A piece of paper under the salt shaker. "If you want to shoot," Mary appeared in the doorway. "The light is good until 5. Then it turns yellow. I'll help." "Thanks." "And tomorrow is onboarding on Zoom. Sawyer will be there," I said, without explaining why that name still haunts me. We went outside. After the night rain, the air was like a cold glass of water. The asphalt was dark with patches. Mary set up the tripod and our secondhand light. "Stand against a plain background. And don't clench your jaw. It makes your eyes look strange," she muttered, checking the frame. "Ready." I spoke without shouting and without sales mantras, briefly about the first check and how changes can be quiet. "I don't promise miracles, but I'll be there for the first steps." Mary tilted her head, catching extra noise in the recording. "It's fine. I'll add a little bass. And I'll cut out the pause where you were searching for a word." She smiled sideways. "You could see you were thinking about the bridge of value." I could. I laughed. "Cut it." Her old laptop hummed as it booted up. Mary's fingers cut out the and sounds, leveled the audio, and added a bit of street noise to make the video breathe. I looked at her calmness and thought that was exactly what I was looking for in myself. I sent the finished video to drafts. Let it sit for a while. Mom suggested attaching the check with a magnet, so you don't lose it to the bank. I liked how "to the bank" sounded. After lunch, I opened the rituals page. Morning visualization. Half today, I thought more about my mom. Script of pain. Notes for conversation. What hurts? How much has it cost you? If nothing changes, who will you be in a year? The questions are simple, like a hammer. And honest. What hurts? Silence in the house late at night. How much has it cost? Years of tasteless rubber. Who will I become? A guy who will do it tomorrow. At 4 o'clock, my mom came back, put the kettle on, and looked at the check again. "Can I take a picture for myself?" she asked, holding her phone like a baby. "Sure." In the evening, we sat with a sitcom playing in the background. Mary returned with a flash drive. "Shall we upload the video at night? When there's less junk in the feed?" I nodded. She thinks for me too. At 10 o'clock, we turned off the TV. I pressed publish and put my phone face down. Don't talk to him for the first 5 minutes. Mary glanced from under her eyebrows. Let him come to you. Yes, producer. Editor. But there was a smile in her voice. Before going to bed, I put the check in a transparent file with the mandatory papers, insurance for the old Toyota, a copy of the certificate, letters from the tax office. There was always something there that came even if you didn't ask for it. Now the possible appeared next to it. I set the alarm for 6. Tomorrow. Onboarding, and the same Mr. Sawyer from the past, who once wrote, "He sees slowly, but he sees." I didn't know if he would recognize me. I wanted to believe that he would say, "Oh, Danny, I told you, you have leadership qualities." I wanted to believe in general. The trailer breathed in its own way in the darkness. Water rushed through the pipes. The neighbors had returned late. I lay there and felt a steady tension, something between fatigue and hope. Don't forget to say good morning to them. Mary's voice came from the room. People hate it when you try to sell them something right away. I won't forget. Thank you. Good night. Good night. My phone vibrated, the first reactions. I didn't look. Tonight is for silence. Tomorrow morning, I'll look at everything at once. Who will write how much does it cost? Who will write where do I sign? Who will write is this real? Today, I'll keep a simple image in my mind. The kitchen table, the check under the salt shaker, my mother's hand touching the numbers and calming down. Perhaps this is how great stories begin, not with fanfare, but with a quiet, "Maybe we'll get out of this," said in the kitchen between the kettle and the shopping list. Although sometimes "get out of this" turns out to be another word, "get involved." I was awakened by a signal on my phone. Your onboarding starts in 30 minutes. I gulped down my coffee and glanced at myself in the mirror. My hair was fine, my eyes were still alive. Mary knocked quietly on the door and held out a microphone. Just in case. If you're recording. It's just training. Just is the first word people use to lure others into cults. She winked and left, leaving behind the scent of citrus. I sat down in front of my laptop. Avery was already on Zoom, smiling, her voice warm, the background neutral white. Next to her were a few other faces, a woman from Texas, a student in a hoodie who kept blinking. At the top was a tile that read Sawyer, lead facilitator. Yes, the same one. He hadn't changed, except his beard had grown thicker. His voice was the same, deep, steady, with that intonation that makes you listen. Good morning, Impactors. Today we'll start with a simple exercise. Take a sheet of paper. Write down what hurts. Not what isn't working, but what hurts. People leaned forward. I heard pens clicking. I wrote, insufficient. He smiled at the camera. Now, next to it, how much did it cost you? I added, time, trust, peace of mind. And lastly, if this doesn't change, who will you be in a year? Pause. Someone sniffed quietly. The student in the hoodie looked up, revealing his face for a second. Young, clean, confused. I remembered Mary. The same wrinkle on her forehead when she holds back tears. Child, Sawyer said softly, that's good. If it hurts, it means you're still alive. And everyone nodded. I was moved too. Because his tone didn't sound like a coach. It sounded like someone who had already been where you were. Then came an hour-long lecture. Bridges of value, architecture of trust, closure cycle. It flowed smoothly, like a well-oiled machine. People don't buy products, Sawyer said. They buy a path from pain to themselves. I wrote it down mechanically. When he paused to take a sip of water, hearts rained down in the chat. Avery put up lights. I clicked like, too. I don't know why. Maybe to belong. After the training, Avery invited me to a private Zoom call. How do you feel? Inspired. But a little weird. Everyone was crying. That's normal, she smiled. People are finally telling the truth. This is our first step, coming out of the shadows. And Sawyer remembers me from school, I think. Oh, that's a sign. You understand, nothing is accidental with us. She leaned toward the camera. Danny, if you'll allow me, I'll be your mentor. Your story has potential. Her voice sounded almost motherly, and at the same time, there was something formulaic about it. I nodded. Because it's easier that way. By evening, an invitation to join the Impactor Rising North Team group had arrived on Telegram. 324 members. A pinned post at the top. Remember, we don't sell. We ignite. Screenshots of receipts, tearful videos, quotes from Sawyer. One of the women wrote, my son stopped talking to me, but I feel like it's his fear of change. We're growing. They're afraid. Dozens of hearts in the comments. I remembered my mom. She's on shift right now, tired, and not afraid that I'm growing up. She just wants me to not fall. I recorded my first video for the group, a short, why I'm here. No script, no editing. Because I'm tired of being the one who waits for everything to change on its own. An hour later, 87 likes, 14 comments. Your energy is pure. You're a leader. You resonate. For the first time in a long time, I felt that people were responding to me, and that it meant something. Later, Mary looked into the room. So, how's your productivity cult going? It's not a cult, I smiled. It's a community. A community that takes a percentage. It's a business. That's the difference. Business is when people know what they're buying. She looked at the screen, at the comments under my video, and added quietly. And remember, Danny, people who say we are family usually don't mean love. They mean free labor. I wanted to joke, but I couldn't find the words. Because somewhere deep down, her phrase struck a chord, like a sharp fragment in a stream of soft motivations. Before going to bed, I looked at another email from Avery. Tomorrow is Circle. Turn on your camera, show your face. People need to see your light. I closed my laptop and went to bed. Light? In the dark, it looked like a small red indicator on the camera. It flashed slowly. And even then I felt that something about this rhythm was not mine. On Saturday at 9 in the morning, I clicked on the Join the Circle link. That day, I was greeted for the first time by dozens of faces, smiling, with a sparkle in their eyes that could blind you even in black and white. The backgrounds were different: kitchens, offices, nurseries. One girl was sitting in a car. Everyone had cameras. No one was shy. In the middle of the screen was Sawyer. He had a cup without any logos and silence behind him. "We are the Circle," he said calmly. "And today you don't listen, you see." The first task was for everyone to share something they were ashamed of. I had already prepared something safe. I waited too long. But the first woman, Sarah from Ohio, suddenly whispered, "I yell at my son, even when he hasn't done anything." She started crying. The camera didn't turn off. Someone in the chat wrote, "We're with you." Others chimed in, "You're already healing because you told the truth." Someone clapped quietly. It was the turn of the student in the hoodie, the one from the onboarding session. He looked down, his lips trembling. I told my mom I hated her. She was just asking how I was doing." He covered his face with his hand. The camera didn't turn off. And then something happened that I didn't expect. In the background, in the doorway of his room, a child appeared, maybe his 7-year-old sister. She stood quietly while he spoke, and then began to cry silently. No one noticed except me. When the guy turned off the camera, the child was still standing there, motionless, like a small shadow of evidence. Sawyer said gently, "He took the first step. Tears are a form of action." And the group exploded with emojis. Hearts, flames, folded hands. And I felt awkward, because the phrase healing wasn't spinning in my head, but how the child looked at her brother, as if the light from the screen had taken something from him that she needed. When it was my turn, I still said my safe thing. "My shame is that I didn't act for a long time." Sawyer looked straight into the camera. "And now you're acting?" "Yes." Then shame turns into strength. And again, an explosion of emojis. I smiled, even though I felt something else, a slight dizziness from the attention. "Well done, brother," Avery wrote in the chat. "Your light is visible." After Cole, I wanted to go outside. Open the window, breathe in the real air. But a new task had already appeared in the group. Record a short video, 3 sentences. Who am I when I'm not afraid? I sat in front of the camera, trying to look confident. When I'm not afraid, I see myself. I can inspire. I'm no longer asleep. When I pressed stop, Mary was already standing next to me, holding a cup of coffee. "It sounds like an alarm clock commercial," she said. "It's just an assignment. Simple." She glanced at the screen, where the chat was pouring out compliments. "You're already a hero to them. Just remember, heroes always owe someone something." I wanted to respond, but instead I looked at the screen. Sawyer had already written, "Danny, your sincerity is a mirror. Don't turn away." I closed my laptop. His voice still echoed in my head, deep, steady, with pauses that seemed to measure your breath. "Don't turn away." I looked out the window, darkness, wet asphalt, streetlights. And somewhere in that silence, it seemed to me that I was already starting to turn away, not from myself, but from those around me. A week after onboarding, I was already waking up without an alarm clock. My body had adjusted to the impactor rhythm: short sleep, lots of coffee, phrases like "stay hungry, stay sold," instead of "good morning." Everything around me felt like a marathon, but a pleasant one, with a sense of movement. Every day brought new calls, new leads, new words that sounded like currency. Avery, my mentor, wrote to me every day. Her messages were dry and precise, but with a strange warmth between the lines. "You're keeping up well, Danny. But don't think that selling is a dialogue. It's a dance, and you're leading it." I didn't know what she meant, but I felt that it was working. My account was growing. Not wildly, but enough for my mom to believe that this was serious. I didn't receive my first check in cash. It was a bank transfer marked affiliate payout. When I showed my mom the statement, she put her hand over her mouth. My God, Danny, that's almost half my monthly salary. It's just the beginning, I replied with a smile. She sighed, the way people sigh when they see something good for the first time in a long time. That evening, I took Mary to the mall. I bought her the headphones she had been dreaming of for a long time and stopped at a rental car display. In the background stood a bright red Mustang. On the hood was a sign that read, "For weekend content creators, ask for Tyler." I asked for a few hours. They didn't ask me about my experience or credit history. They just scanned the Impactor app's QR code. I guess they had a partnership. Mary filmed me with her phone as I got into the car. Ready, Mr. Ticket Out of Poverty? She laughed. Always. I pressed the gas pedal, and the engine roared so loudly that the windows of the neighboring stores rattled. We pulled over to the side of the road and stopped at an abandoned parking lot. The wind was warm, the sky was white and rosy, like an old TikTok filter. Okay, Mary said, raising her camera. 3, 2, 1. I got out of the car, smiled, and said what I had heard from Sawyer. If all you see is the ceiling, it's time to change the roof. Impactor taught me that. Mary shot a few takes, added music, and quickly edited the video. In the evening, I posted it on Instagram. The next morning, it had over 5,000 views. Someone from the team shared it in a group chat. Avery wrote, "Cool vibe. We want your video to be shown at tomorrow's meeting. Also, you're being nominated for the junior program. It's a school for young Impactor leaders. It's a great opportunity." I read the message several times. The junior program was like a sign that I had been noticed. It was like a game in which I had finally been given a new level. That same evening, my mom and I were sitting in the kitchen. She was scrolling through her phone, watching my video, and laughing. Mary did such a great job. She's talented. Yeah, I replied. They even noticed her editing. Maybe they'll offer her something. That would be great, my mom said. So you can both get out of all this. She didn't specify what all this meant. The trailer, the debts, the constant shortage of money, or just the habit of being tired. I watched as she slowly took off her apron, put the kettle on, and wiped her eyes. I'm proud of you, she said. You finally made a move. Maybe this impactor really knows what it's doing. Her voice trembled, and I realized that those words were exactly what I had wanted to hear my whole life. The next day, I received a message with the subject line, "Welcome to Junior Program, Local Chapter Initiative." The text was short. You have been appointed coordinator of the Impactor Junior Club at River Valley High. You will be working with potential participants aged 15 to 17. Your goal is 20 new registrations per month. Lead mentor, Mr. Sawyer. I reread it several times, then just sat and listened to the night city humming outside the window, with all its lights that never turn off, because each of them believes that it shines for a reason. I thought about how now I'm not just part of the system. I'm its face. But somewhere deep down, amid this satisfaction, there was a feeling I didn't want to dwell on. Like a cold shadow in a room that you can only see out of the corner of your eye. But I told myself it was just fatigue, just a new level of responsibility. And I pressed reply. Thank you, Mr. Sawyer. I'm ready to begin. The school gym smelled of sweat, wax, and coffee from the vending machine at the entrance. The old posters with slogans like "Be Your Best Self" and "Dream Big" now seemed ironic. Above them hung a new banner with the shiny Impactor logo. On the stage stood a small speaker, a tripod with a phone, and a plastic table covered with red fabric. My first independent workshop at River Valley High. The same school where, just a few years ago, I sat in the back row and dreamed of just getting away to somewhere that didn't smell like school paint. Now I was standing here in a white shirt that my mom had washed the night before, trying not to show how much my hands were sweating. Avery wrote in the morning. Remember, Danny, energy is everything. You're not just presenting, you're igniting. Let them feel that you have the key that will open doors they've never even been shown. I reread it before entering the hall and said aloud to myself, I have the key. As the students began to gather, I recognized some of them. Upperclassmen who had stayed after class for the free motivational seminar. On the table were booklets with the words, "Your Ticket Out of Poverty. Join Impactor Junior." I started with what I had once heard from Sawyer. When I graduated from this school, I thought that the choice in life was between going to college or staying here. But there is a third option. Get out of the circle. I spoke confidently, hardly looking at my notes. My hands were no longer shaking. People were listening. And it was the feeling I had been missing since childhood, when people really look at you. I didn't have any connections either, I continued. But now I'm the leader of the local Impactor chapter. And you know why? Because I was tired of being a statistic. Someone in the room applauded, and I felt the words become reality. I was no longer just repeating someone else's script. I believed in it. After the meeting, several students approached me with questions. Two guys asked for a link to the program. One girl, Sarah, Said she wanted to earn money for a laptop because all she had at home was her brother's old tablet. She filled out the form right on her phone, and I helped her press submit. When I pressed send, I was overcome by a strange feeling, a mixture of pride and something like guilt. But I quickly suppressed it. There's no room for doubt in this game. Later that day, I received a message from Sawyer. Great job, Danny. I see your numbers. We'll talk in person tomorrow. In person, the words sounded like a reward. We met at a coffee shop near the old road. He showed up without a tie, wearing a gray shirt with rolled-up sleeves, like a man who has long known who he is. Well, we meet again in River Valley, he said, sitting down across from me. How is the future regional leader feeling? I smiled. I'm just doing what you taught me. No, he objected. You're doing better. I see you. And I remember how you learned from me. You always had something that others lack, confidence in your voice. People follow that. He ordered coffee for both of us without asking what I wanted, and I didn't even object. When he spoke, I wanted to listen, not because he was my boss, but because his words sounded like the answer to all the questions I was afraid to ask. We're starting a new direction, he said. Impactor Jr. We want to teach teenagers to think like leaders before they graduate. You will head the first club. Me? I couldn't help myself. But I just joined. There are more experienced people. He smiled. That's exactly why. You're clean. No old patterns. No fear. He took a folder labeled Local Chapter Proposal out of his briefcase. Here's the plan. Your meetings will be every Wednesday after school. Build a community. Lead them. And most importantly, don't let them doubt themselves. I looked through the papers. Schemes, KPIs, tables with motivational indicators. On the last page was a section titled Parent Outreach Strategy. Maintain contact with families through trust and a common goal. Don't sell the course, sell the child's future. I nodded, and I heard him add more quietly, almost like a confession. You know, Danny, it's not about the money for you and me. We're about the mission. I believed him then, maybe even more than I believed myself. At home, my mom opened the envelope with my new badge. Chapter Leader, River Valley High. Wow, she said, this is serious. Mary picked up the badge and looked at the shiny logo. It's like you have your own company now, she said. I smiled. But when they laughed, I noticed that under my name on the badge, in small letters, it said, Mentored by M. Sawyer. And it became difficult for me to explain why this line seemed to me both an honor and a shackle. But I still left the badge in a prominent place. Because at that moment, I still believed that this shine was light, not a reflection from a spotlight. The first meeting of the Impactor Junior Club took place in the library after school. It smelled of dust, old textbooks, and cheap disinfectant, which the cleaning lady generously sprayed on the tables. The librarian, Mrs. Trent, allowed us to stay until 6, no later. But when she saw the logo on the banner, she became friendlier. Are you from that program for young leaders? She asked, adjusting her glasses. Yes, ma'am. I replied, trying to sound confident. Impactor Junior. We help high school students find their way. She nodded and even offered to bring us water. When the students started arriving, I felt something like déjà vu, faces familiar from the school hallways. Only now they looked at me differently. Not as the former, typical trailer park kid, but as someone who seemed to know where to go. Sarah, the same girl who wanted to earn money for a laptop, was sitting in the front row. Behind her were two twins who were filming everything on their phones. A few other guys and girls were quietly talking, looking at me expectantly. I opened my laptop and connected it to the projector. The branded slide lit up on the screen. Your story is a product. Learn to sell it. Hi everyone. I'm Danny. I began. And today we're going to talk about the most important skill in the modern world, how to turn your own experience into capital. As I spoke, the words came easily. I didn't even look at my notes. In my head was a ready-made script that Sawyer had shown me at one of the circles. Question, pause, reflection. Everything was clear, as if following a score. We all want to get out of something, I said. Sometimes it's poverty. Sometimes it's fear. Impactor is a place where we do it together. Someone nodded. Someone sighed. I saw Sarah put down her phone and start listening. After the meeting, most people stayed to sign the participant forms. The forms were standard: name, age, contact information, and a guest release section. The same one that allowed Impactor to use their videos or photos in program materials. Some people didn't read it, they just signed it. But when Sarah approached me, she paused, read it carefully, and stopped at the last line. It says here that we allow filming and use of our image in advertising, she said. Is that okay? Yes, I replied, a little uncertainly. It's just a standard form, so we can share our stories on social media. She nodded but signed slowly, her hand heavy. And that's when I noticed another girl, thin, with dark hair and a backpack covered in BTS stickers. She stood to the side, clutching a pen. Would you like to join us? I asked. She looked up. Is it free? She asked quietly. Because my mom said they won't give us credit. It hit me like a blow. Yes, of course, I replied quickly. It's free for now. Just come. She smiled and signed up. As she was leaving, she said to me, I believe you're the real deal. Those words stuck in my head for a long time. After the meeting, I photographed the forms and sent them to Avery. She replied a few minutes later. Great, Danny. 12 new signatures. 2 of them are U18s. Send me their contact info, and we'll make a parent call. It's standard procedure. I sent everything without thinking twice. Only then did I notice that a document was attached at the bottom of the email. U18 conversion flow, internal use only. I opened it. There were scripts for conversations with parents, colored blocks with advice. Don't say course, say mentoring system. If in doubt, emphasize that the children are already on the team. I reread it and didn't understand why I suddenly felt cold. It was as if the words I had spoken to my students yesterday had suddenly lost their color. On the last page was a point. If a teenager asks for help with payment, suggest a microloan through the Storytime partner platform. And next to it, a smiling emoji. I closed my laptop. I breathed slowly, as we were taught in visualization classes. It's just business, I told myself. All programs sell something. Everyone uses scripts. But when I left the library, the girl with the BTS backpack was still standing on the stairs. She was waiting for her mother, swinging her leg and clutching her phone like a treasure. I wanted to say something, but I didn't know what. So I just nodded and walked past. That night, for the first time, I couldn't sleep. 2 phrases kept spinning around in my head, and for some reason, they didn't fit together. We provide an outlet. And U18, high emotion buys. Avery called on Saturday evening when my mom was already asleep and Mary was watching a TV series with her headphones on. I was sitting in the kitchen with a cup of cold coffee, trying to ignore my fatigue. You've made a good start, she said on the other end. Her voice was soft, almost soothing. But there are areas where you can improve. You let them think too much. I asked. Yes. Teenagers, parents, even potential customers. Impactor is not about doubts. We don't persuade, we lead. When someone says, I need time, you respond, time is a luxury you don't have. Got it. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. And one more thing, she added, if someone asks for a refund, don't process it. Write to me, and I'll pass it on to the supervisor. We'll call it a case of emotional instability. Don't take it personally. I was silent. Whenever she spoke, I found myself believing every word. There was something maternal in her voice, even when she was giving instructions. After the call, I stared at my laptop screen for a long time. There, among the files, was a new link from Impactor. Correction call, 9:30 p.m. About 20 people had gathered in the Zoom room. Everyone's microphones were turned off. Mr. Sawyer was on the screen. His camera was positioned slightly below him, making him appear taller than he was. Good evening, leaders, he said, and the room fell silent. Today we're going to talk about weaknesses. A list appeared on the slide: refund requests, dropouts, parent interference. We cannot allow fear or pity to destroy the structure, he continued. When a person asks to stop the program, it is not a request to stop. It is a request for support, and you are the one who must provide it. He clicked the mouse, and a short video appeared on the screen. A young girl, maybe 17. She was crying, saying she had taken out a loan for the course and couldn't pay it back. Her mentor was standing next to her, speaking softly. Think about how you felt when you first decided to step out of your comfort zone. Don't abandon your path because of fear. It's just resistance to growth. Sawyer paused the video. See, he asked. This isn't pressure. It's care. If we allow a person to back down, we reinforce their defeat. Someone in the chat wrote, 100 points true. And it was just me, or her eyes, frozen in the still frame, were looking right at me. After the call, I couldn't sleep. I opened my dashboard, which read, active juniors, 16. Conversion rate, 32%. And below that, a new line that had appeared for the first time. Pending refund, Sarah J., U18. Sarah, she wrote to me that morning. Danny, I changed my mind. My mom doesn't know I took out a loan. I thought it was like a subscription, but it's a real contract. Can you help me cancel it? I didn't have time to reply. In the mentor chat, someone asked, what should I do if a teenager doesn't want to pay? Avery replied instantly. Remind them that they are already part of the team, and that real leaders don't run away from difficulties. I reread these lines until I felt a heaviness in my chest. Maybe it was just fatigue. Or maybe what I saw in the video didn't match what I used to call help. The next day, when I arrived at the library, Sarah was waiting at the door. Her face was pale, her gaze angry but calm. You said it would be an opportunity, she said without greeting me. And now some man is calling me and saying I have to make a monthly payment. I began, but she interrupted me. Do you even know what this means to me? I told my mom I want a scholarship. And now? I couldn't find the words. I tried to explain that everything could be resolved, that we were on the student's side. But even to me, it sounded insincere. Sarah simply said, if you really are leaders, then maybe start with the truth. And she left. In the evening, I received a message from Avery. You have to be tougher, Danny. Otherwise, the team will lose respect. Sarah is going through a phase of resistance. We'll work it out. And a little further down, a new task on the dashboard. Correction call, supervised with Sawyer. He'll be watching again. I turned off my laptop and stared into the darkness of the trailer. Mom was asleep. Mary was editing something. The light from the monitor flickered in the room. I suddenly thought about how easily the meaning of words changes when you repeat them every day. Motivation starts to sound like manipulation. Support, like pressure. Team, like a customer base. And the only sound that remained real was the clicking of keys in the next room, where my sister, unsuspecting, was editing a video for our leadership brand. Mary was sitting at the computer when I returned home after another corrective round. On the screen, I was wearing a red shirt with the Impactor logo, talking to the camera about confidence as the ultimate currency. She cut out the pauses, added a light background, and even I looked more convincing than I do in real life. I increased the contrast, she said, without looking away from the screen. Now you look like that guy on TikTok who sells productivity courses. Is that good or bad? I asked. For algorithms, it's good, she replied. For you, I don't know yet. Mary always spoke evenly, without emotional swings. But sometimes there was a hint of irony in her voice, subtle as a scratch. Did you see that you were tagged on the official account? She added, turning back to me. Who? Impactor Jr. Your video was shared yesterday, and there's another post. With your photo and the caption, Danny Cole, a leader who started from scratch. I moved closer. Indeed, the page looked perfect. Carefully selected colors, motivational quotes, and next to my photo, a short clip of Mary filming me in front of a Mustang. They used my video, she said, without tagging me. But it's okay, I don't mind. It's just funny. I did the editing, but you're getting the likes. I smiled, but something tightened inside me. This video no longer belonged to us. What we filmed at home became part of a big machine that knows how to talk beautifully about family. The next day, my mother came home from work later than usual. She was carrying 2 bags from the supermarket, and her eyes had that same sparkle that appeared whenever she felt proud. You won't believe it, she said. Some woman from Impactor called me today. She said they want to include you in an advertising campaign. I froze. What do you mean, a campaign? Well, they're making a video about young people who found themselves thanks to the program. And, she paused, they want Mary to be in it. Mary? I didn't understand right away. Yes, she does editing. She's talented. They said they're looking for faces for the youth segment. Like real stories of brothers and sisters who inspire others. I looked at her and didn't know what to say. Mom told me this so sincerely, as if it were a gift. As if everything she feared, lack, fatigue, debt, was suddenly compensated for by one phone call. They promised a scholarship for Mary, she continued, and a contract to use her video. Nothing complicated, just permission. I felt something snap in my chest. The same guest release that my students signed. The same small print at the bottom of the page. Mom, did you read what's in the contract? I asked. Come on. She waved it off. They're a serious company. Everything's above board. And anyway, I'm glad they noticed you. They trust you. Her words hurt more than I expected. Mom, I began, but she was already unpacking the groceries, smiling. Don't start. This is a chance for both of you. Isn't this what you wanted, to get out of the trailer? Later that evening, Mary brought me an email. They sent this, she said. They say it has to be signed by Monday. I opened the file. Visual Representation and Youth Ambassador Agreement. Her name was on the first page. On the second page was a clause. All materials created may be used without limitation in terms of time or territory. The company has the right to adapt, modify, and synthesize with other images for marketing purposes. I looked at those lines, and the girl with the BTS backpack stood before my eyes. The same font, the same words. Have you read this? I asked. A little, but I think it's just a standard document. It's not like I'm starring in a shampoo commercial, she smiled. Besides, Mom already signed it. She did what? She said she didn't want to ruin the moment. Mary shrugged. Relax, Danny. It's just a video. I looked at her and realized that the word just was the scariest thing about everything that was happening. Just a signature. Just a photo. Just trust. At night, I sat on the porch with my laptop. The light from the screen reflected in the glass, and I saw my own face in it. Exhausted, older than a month ago. I opened the Impactor dashboard and went to the campaign, Youth Impact Stories section. There, among the candidates, was already a name, Mary Cole, Face of Growth. I clicked Preview. A short video clip. Mary, standing in front of a Mustang, smiles and says, "My brother believed in himself, and that changed everything. Now I'm part of Impactor too." Sawyer's voice added off-screen. When you change one person, you change a whole generation. And at the end, the logo, the slogan, the music, the lights. I turned off the sound and sat silently. It all looked so clean, so professional, and at the same time so false. Because I saw how easily the system turns even love into content. How they turned our family into a script. The next morning, Avery wrote briefly. "Great feedback on the video. Mary is a find. Sawyer wants to see her at the summit. You have to bring her yourself." I reread the message over and over. And inside, there was only one question that I didn't dare to ask. How far had I gone before I realized that I was leading them to a place I myself was afraid to look? The morning began as usual. Coffee, a cold shower, a motivational mantra from Sawyer in the chat. "If you're not closing, you're dying." I opened the dashboard, new statistics for the week. Sales of the junior program increased by 12%. The percentage of emotional buyers was highlighted in green. And for the first time, a new tab, U18 Performance Report. I clicked on it. A table appeared on the screen. Next to the names were amounts. For $199, $899, $1,299. And in parentheses, a small CR icon. Credit. I scrolled down. Age range, 15 to 17. Average repayment time, 6 months. And below, a dry note. Youth buyers exhibit high emotional urgency. Recommended approach. Mirror dreams, minimize logic. It was like I had been electrocuted. I sat there staring at that line until the numbers began to blur before my eyes. These were the kids who came to my Zoom meetings. The ones I told, "You are more than your grades, more than your home." But in reality, I was just selling them debt. In the office Slack chat, the leaders were discussing preparations for the Mega Summit in Atlanta. Sawyer wrote, "Junior division showing insane momentum. Keep your youth fired up. They are our cleanest market." Avery responded with a fire emoji. I didn't respond. I just watched my colleagues sprinkle emojis while Sawyer's words, "cleanest market," pulsed in my head. That day, I had a call meeting with him in person. Sawyer sat in his office, polished wood, a flagship with the Impactor logo on the wall. When the camera turned on, he smiled as always, sincerely, openly, convincingly. "Danny, I'm proud of you. You've become a real player." "Thank you," I replied, trying not to show how my fingers were shaking. He leaned forward. "I heard they want to put Mary on stage in Atlanta. She has something real, something pure. And people are drawn to purity. She's a child," I blurted out. Sawyer narrowed his eyes. 16. That's perfect. Naivety sells better than experience. She's a symbol that the system works. "But she hasn't even taken the course," I objected. "That's exactly why," he smiled. "She's not overloaded with knowledge. She's faith in the process." He said it like a mantra, and I suddenly remembered how 10 years ago, at school, he said the same thing about me. "You have potential. The main thing is to believe." Back then, it sounded like support. Now it sounded like a script. After the meeting, I sat in the car for a long time. On the seat next to me was a printout of analytics that I had accidentally saved before leaving. In the payment methods column, 40% of all transactions were marked Student Credit Program. Partner, Bright Start Financial. I opened this partner's website. The logo was a rainbow, and the slogan was "Invest in your dreams early." And below, in small print, was April 23rd. 4%. I leaned back in my seat. My hands were shaking. I remembered how one guy, Jason, wrote to me at night. "Bro, if I can't pay off the loan, will it affect my mom?" I replied, "Don't think about money, think about your growth." And I turned off the chat so I wouldn't see any new messages. Now I wanted to hit myself. My mom was already waiting at home. On the table was a printout of Mary's contract, signed, with smiles. "I took care of everything," she said. "They called and said Mary will be an ambassador in their youth empowerment video. Can you imagine? She'll go to the summit for free." For free. I repeated, not sure I believed the word. "Well, almost. You have to pay a participation fee of $200. But I've already transferred the money. Don't worry." "Mom, you didn't even read the terms and conditions." "Son, don't be cynical. You said yourself, you have to believe in the process." And then I realized. She was quoting me. My own words, which I had been feeding to others for years. The system had already taken root even at home. Late at night, when my mom was asleep, I opened the dashboard again. The regional impact metrics section had been updated. There was a new section on the slide. U18 equals high emotion buys, HEB. Maintain ratio 35 to 40%. Avoid logical friction, parents, teachers. Encourage, I decide language. And below it was my region. Target achieved. I looked at that line as if it were a sentence. Everything I had achieved was measured by the number of minors I had convinced to believe in themselves. The next day, Sawyer wrote in the chat, Danny, you're speaking at the summit. Bring Mary. Families sell better than solo heroes. I read that message 5 times, and I realized, this is no longer just about business. This is about a boundary, and I am standing on it. I couldn't sleep for a long time after that message. Families sell better than solo heroes. Families sell better. These words spun in my head like a blade sliding across glass. In the morning, I arrived at the impactor office earlier than usual. The parking lot was empty. The smell of coffee from the vending machine in the lobby filled the air, and motivational quotes echoed off the walls. Pain is the down payment for greatness. If you quit, your family quits too. I looked at these slogans and thought, how right they sounded until they affected my family. Avery was already waiting for me at her desk. She looked exhausted, the shadow of a coffee cup on the monitor, her phone vibrating incessantly. You look like you've seen a ghost, she said. Maybe I have, I replied. Avery, I need to talk. She nodded, closed her laptop, and followed me to the conference room. The door closed, and suddenly it was a different world. Silence, air conditioning, bright lights. What's wrong? She asked. It's about Mary. They're pulling her into the campaign. And I saw the documents. They signed the release without consent, without even reading it. It allows them to use her face anywhere, without restrictions. Avery lowered her eyes. Danny, everyone signs it. She's a minor. That's not our area. Legal checks if there's a signature from a parent, and that's it. You know the rules. It's not just the rules. It's wrong. I clench my fists. The dashboard already shows that 40% of sales are from U18. Does Sawyer know about this? Avery was silent for a few seconds, then said quietly, Sawyer knows everything. I felt my chest tighten. Then help me. Hold this case. Say something doesn't add up. That you need double confirmation. Anything. Just buy me some time. She nervously twisted the pen cap. Danny, I can't. If I stop the case, it will raise a red flag. Sawyer will immediately ask why. He looks at the metrics every day. You know this is unethical. I leaned closer. This isn't why we came here, is it? Avery looked at me for a long time. There was sympathy in her eyes, but also fear. You want me to risk everything because of your sister? I opened my mouth to respond, but she was already standing up. Don't be foolish, Danny. You're on the rise. Sawyer sees potential in you. Don't ruin it with your emotions. She left. The door closed quietly, and I was left alone. I didn't go to lunch. I sat in my car in the parking lot, replaying her words. Sawyer sees potential in you. I heard that from him back in school, and I believed it then too. I opened my phone and wrote him a short message. Mr. Sawyer, we need to talk about a case. Mary Cole. He replied a minute later. Come in at 4 p.m. We'll decide. At 4 p.m, I turned on Zoom. Sawyer and several other supervisors were already on the screen. Danny, he began. Avery said you have comments on your sister's case. I felt my heart pounding. Yes, sir. I just wanted to clarify a few things. Mary is a minor, and I'm not sure the contract complies with junior division policy. Sawyer's smile appeared on the screen, the same one that started all his videos. Friend, there's no need to be afraid of the words contract and policy. You need to be afraid of betraying your calling. He leaned toward the camera. I see you've lost your focus a little, so let's make a small correction. And then I realized that he wasn't talking to me. He was talking to the audience. Because there were already over 100 people in the circle. He opened the chat. Watch this correction. This is how you fix self-doubt. Danny, when we met at school, you were a guy from a trailer park who couldn't even speak in front of the class. I saw a leader in you, and now you're one of the best. But a leader doesn't question the system that created him. Someone in the chat reacted with clapping hands. And another one. And another. I could feel my face burning. Sir, I just wanted to make sure that. No, he interrupted. You wanted to make sure that your weakness would be forgiven. But there are no weak people at Impactor. There are only those who grow or run away. The sound of applause. People were posting fire and flexed biceps. My camera was on, and I could see my own face. Pale, lips pressed together, eyes filled with a mixture of shame and rage. Sawyer smiled. It's okay, Danny. We all forget where we came from sometimes. But you're my guy. I covered for you in front of the director once, remember? You're my project, and I won't let you ruin everything because of sentimentality. After the call, I stared at the black screen for a long time. Messages were still pouring into the chat. That was powerful. Sawyer always knows how to correct love. Correct love. That's what they called it. I logged out of my account and turned off the computer. My fingers were trembling, but somewhere deep inside me, something I hadn't felt in a long time was stirring. Not fear, not shame, but cold clarity. My fingers were trembling, but somewhere deep inside me, something I hadn't felt in a long time was emerging. Not fear, not shame, but cold clarity. Sawyer was right about one thing. I did remember where I came from, and that's why I knew he was lying. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the kitchen, drank cheap coffee, listened to the refrigerator making strange noises, and replayed his words in my head. You're my project. The room was dark, only the light from my laptop screen smeared across the wall. I opened old folders, everything I had kept since school. Photos, homework, videos of Sawyer standing at the blackboard and talking to us 17-year-olds about the power of self-discipline. At the time, I didn't notice how he looked at us. Not as students, but as people who could be molded into something. We were raw material for his belief in raising leaders. A long-forgotten memory came to mind. 10th grade. I was late for class and came in with a torn backpack, covered in dust after another day of working part-time on a construction site. Sawyer called me out after class. You do realize that with this attitude, you'll never get out of the trailer? He said at the time. I was silent, clutching the strap of my backpack. He came closer and put his hand on my shoulder. But I can help. I see potential in you. A week later, he gave me access to the Leadership Club, an extracurricular club where we learned to speak to an audience and make emotional sales pitches. At the time, we didn't even realize that it was the same thing as Impactor is now, only in a school format. Now, looking back, I see how it all fits together. Sawyer was training us long before he created this pyramid. I was his first success story. He called me himself in the morning. Danny, let's talk without witnesses. Come by the office. His tone was calm, almost friendly, but I sensed a trap. I went anyway. The Impactor office in our city was in a former bank building, glass walls, the smell of coffee, and fake success. At the reception desk, there was a large poster with his face on it. We don't build clients. We build believers. When I walked in, he was already standing by the window with his back to me. You look good, Danny, he said without turning around. I always knew you would go far. You humiliated me in front of everyone back then, I replied. You called me weak because I asked about legality. He turned around with a smile that was too calm to be sincere. You think that was humiliation? It was an opportunity. People need to see that even leaders hesitate. You gave me a great scene, and now you're a symbol of discipline. What about Mary? I took a step forward. She's just a child. Sawyer looked at me as if I didn't understand the basics. You said yourself that you want a better life for her. Isn't that why you're here? I'm here because I wanted to help my mom. And now I see that we're just selling a dream to people who can't afford it. He smiled. A dream always has a price. I was silent. You think I can't see that you're having doubts? He continued. But I created you, Danny. I covered for you in front of the principal, remember? When you were about to be expelled for that fight. I froze. I had suppressed that memory. The fight near the gym. I could have been expelled from school. But the next day, the principal said the incident was closed. It was me, Sawyer said. I convinced him that you weren't a problem, but potential. And from that moment on, you were my guy. I raised you. His voice was quiet, but there was something painful in it, almost fatherly. I've invested years in you. And now you owe me. I don't owe you anything, I said. Oh, on the contrary. You are proof of my methodology. And if you start doubting now, you will destroy not me, but yourself. People believe in you because I gave you this image. Without me, you're just a nobody from a trailer again. I felt anger rising inside me, but I held back. You manipulate children, Sawyer. You turn them into debtors, not leaders. He smiled. And what are you going to do? Go to the police? To the news? You're part of the system, Danny. You signed an NDA, remember? Any move you make, and they'll tear you apart in court. He moved closer, almost close enough to touch me. But I love you, Danny. You've just forgotten who saved you. I took a step back. No one saved me. You just found another guy who had no choice. I left the office, feeling my heart beating in my throat. Messages poured into my phone, Slack, email, congratulations from colleagues. Congrats, man. You're listed as a summit speaker. Funny, I hadn't even agreed yet. I got in the car and closed my eyes. I breathed slowly. In my head, I heard his voice. I created you. This was no longer just about work. It was an old, twisted relationship between a teacher and a student who finally understood that it wasn't about care, but about control. That night, I went into Mary's room. She was sitting at her laptop, editing a video of her own face with music playing in the background and the words, I believed. And it changed my life, appearing on the screen. I watched her smile on the screen, a sincere, childlike smile. That's nice, I said. But is that really what you want? Sawyer said that after the summit, I could get a scholarship. And maybe a job in the media department. Sawyer says a lot of things. She looked up at me. You've changed, Danny. You used to say that we had to believe in the process. I wanted to tell the truth, but I couldn't. How could I explain to a 16-year-old girl that the person who promised us a future had been training us our whole lives? I just said, if something seems wrong to you, tell me. Okay. She nodded, and I think that was when I realized. This world won't change until we show how it works from the inside. I opened my laptop and started looking for a way to do it. A few days later, the office was buzzing like a beehive. Everyone was getting ready for the mega summit in Atlanta, their main show of the year. Every curator, every leader, received a list of tasks, coordinating participants, costumes, videos, banners, the stage. Messages poured in on Slack. Remember, energy is the product. Smiles are currency. Fake it till you are it. It all looked like a well-directed cult, with perfect joy, even smiles, and fear of asking why. I tried to act calm. Inside, I was boiling, but on the outside, a smile, confident gestures, the tone of a leader. Sawyer wrote to me briefly. Bring Mary to Atlanta. She's ready. Mary was glowing with joy. She already had a new dress, bought by her mother on credit, to look decent on stage. She brought me a printed script with notes. Look, I have to say this after Sawyer. She read from the paper. I didn't wait for life to change. I took the first step myself. And now I want to inspire others. Her voice trembled with excitement, but her eyes were shining. She believed every word. I listened and felt something tighten inside me, like a fist. I knew she hadn't written this text. It was written by the same people who created Script of Pain, Morning Visualization, and U18 High Emotion Buy. The next day, Sawyer held a final pre-summit call with all the leaders. His smile lit up the screen. Guys, we're changing lives. Tomorrow is a historic day. We'll have cameras, media, teenagers, their parents. And remember, family is the best sales pitch. Then he looked straight into the camera, at me. Danny, you started this story, you and your sister. This is your moment. What if I don't want her to speak? I blurted out. The chat went silent. Sawyer smiled. I know you're just worried, but sometimes you have to let the light touch our fears. She doesn't understand what she's getting into, I said. She's a child. She is faith. And that faith will inspire thousands like you. His words sounded almost gentle, but there was steel hidden in that gentleness. We'll talk privately after the summit, okay? He added. Let's not spoil the atmosphere in front of the team. In the evening, Mom brought home new t-shirts with the Impactor logo, one for me, one for Mary. Look how pretty they are, she smiled, as if it were a gift from fate. Can you imagine? She'll be on stage tomorrow. I even asked for time off work to see it. I didn't answer. I listened to her talk and felt despair slowly creeping over me. Mom really believed this was a chance. That Sawyer was a good person who helped your brother. She didn't see that he was just playing the same old song he used to sing to me. Mom, I finally said. Did you read what you signed for Mary? What are you getting at again, Danny? She sighed. It's just a standard form. I checked. It's all official, with a seal and a signature. I took the sheet and showed her the small print at the bottom. The company may use, modify, or integrate any images created into other materials without prior consent from the participant. That means they can use her face anywhere. In advertising, in paid courses, even in manipulative videos. Mom pressed her lips together. You're just jealous that someone finally surpassed you. Her words cut like a knife. I'm not jealous, Mom. I'm afraid. Because I see that you've all been blinded. She gave me a tired look. You see conspiracies everywhere. Maybe you'll finally see that someone is just helping? She went to bed, leaving me among advertising t-shirts and contracts that smelled of cheap ink and someone else's power. The next day was the photo shoot. Mary sat in front of the camera, the light falling on her face. The photographer from the team repeated, smile wider, look into the light, imagine you're already on stage. I stood aside. Mary laughed, her hair lit up by the lamps, and I felt something indescribable tighten inside me. This was no longer my sister. This was a brand. A new success story. A child who had become a product. Sawyer watched from the sidelines, his arms crossed. His eyes sparkled with satisfaction. She was born for this, he said quietly. You have the same fire in your blood. I didn't answer. I just looked at Mary. She smiled at the camera, unaware that her light would soon be used to sell darkness. That night, I sat in my car in the office parking lot, laptop and flash drive in hand. I opened the company's internal server for the first time, the very platform where we uploaded scripts, slides, and conversion tools. And among thousands of files, I found one titled, U18 Strategy. PPTX. I opened it. The first slide. Target emotions. Insecurity, parental disconnection, early ambition. The second. Use mentor figure archetype. Recreate father absence. The third. Leverage youth relatability via sibling partnerships. And the last. Case study. Danny Cole. Authentic transformation narrative. My name. My story. My pain. As a marketing example. I sat silently until everything inside turned to ashes. And I realized there was no turning back. That night, I wrote to Nikki Reyes for the first time. I have something you need to see, but I need protection. She replied in 10 minutes. Let's meet. But be careful. If it's what I think it is, you won't be able to sleep soon. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something like peace. Not because it got easier. It was because I had finally decided that I would no longer be their product. I arrived at the coffee shop on the outskirts of town 20 minutes before the agreed time. I sat by the window, carefully stirring my cold coffee and watching the cars glisten in the morning sun in the parking lot. I had hardly slept. Every sound seemed suspicious, every phone call a warning signal. Nikki Reyes arrived right on time, petite, dark-haired, wearing a leather jacket, with a voice recorder hidden in her palm. She sat down opposite me without saying a word, and after a few seconds of silence, she said, "You wrote to me about Impactor. You say you have evidence?" I nodded. I took out the flash drive. It's all there. Sales scripts, internal presentations, slides about the U18 campaign, even recordings of corrective circles. She looked closely, assessing. Why did you decide to leak this? Because they're dragging children into it. My sister won't be there. She leaned closer. Do you understand what you're getting yourself into? Sawyer isn't just a coach. He has lawyers, money, patrons. If we make this public, you'll be wiped off the map. Better to be wiped off than be a part of this, I said. She smiled. Okay, I'll help. But first, I need to check everything. No names. No emotional presentation. Dry, clear, documentary. She opened her laptop and inserted a flash drive. We sat side by side, reviewing file after file. When she came across the slide, How to Break Parents, her face turned gray. Play on the feeling of injustice. Position parents as a barrier. The child must feel that Impactor understands them better than their family. She didn't finish. This is a cult, just with gloss and PowerPoint. It's a business, I said, and we were commodities. The next few days we worked in near silence. I went to work, smiled at meetings as if nothing was happening, and at night I leaked materials. Slides, videos, audio, correspondence with the lender Brightstart Financial. All of these were small fragments of the truth. Meanwhile, Mary was being prepared for her speech. She rehearsed her speech in front of the mirror, while my mother filmed her on her phone, repeating emotionally, "My girl, you're a real star." I looked at them and felt everything mixing inside me. Tenderness, shame, anger. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. Not yet. On the fourth day after the meeting, Nikki wrote, "I checked everything. It's a real mess. But we need public proof, something that people will see for themselves. No editing, no interpretations." "What do you mean?" I asked during a video call. "A live broadcast. Or a presentation. Are you speaking at the summit?" "Yes. Sawyer appointed me as a speaker." "Perfect." She leaned closer. "You're not just going to speak. You're going to show them the truth." She explained the plan. Simple and insane. Under the guise of my presentation, I was to plug in a flash drive and launch files from the internal system. Sawyer and his team would be none the wiser until the audience saw what we had seen. "This will destroy me," I said. "Or set me free," she replied. At home, I prepared as if for war. Mary was asleep, Mom was watching TV in the living room, and I sat at my laptop and wrote a short script for my speech. When I came here, I was told that Impactor was a family. But there are families that love, and there are those that sell love for a percentage. I paused. The words seemed too direct, too dangerous. But there were no others left. Then I checked the flash drive. U18 strategy. PPTX. Audio_recording_07. Wave, correction call, where Sawyer yells at a guy from the junior division who asked for his money back. Email_thread_Brightstart. PDF. And finally, a video from the training session. Sawyer says into the microphone, "Remember, a teenager without a father is the best customer. He already has a need for authority. We just fill the void." I turned off the sound and sat for a long time, clutching my temples. In the morning, Mom knocked on the door. "Danny, are you ready? You're leaving for Atlanta today." "Ready," I said. And that was the first time I wasn't lying. I was ready. Not for the performance. For the end. The drive took several hours. Mary slept in the back seat, hugging her laptop. I stared at the highway, at the Impactor billboards along the road. "Your future starts here. You are your own hero. Each slogan seemed like a mockery. In the trunk, I had a flash drive that could destroy them. In Atlanta, we were met by coordinators wearing company t-shirts. Sawyer stood by the stage, calm, with the same smile I had learned to read. He hugged me in front of everyone and patted me on the back. Here's our guy, and his sister is our new face. Mary smiled shyly, and he looked at me in a way that made me feel cold. Don't worry, Danny. After the summit, your life will change. Mine already has, I replied. That night, I sent Nikki one last message before the performance. Tomorrow, 11:40, main stage. If anything goes wrong, show everything. She replied briefly. We'll be online. Remember, you're not alone. I turned off my phone and looked at Mary sleeping in the hotel bed. She was smiling in her sleep. And I thought, even if everyone hates me tomorrow, the main thing is that she finally wakes up. The hall resembled a concert venue. The flow of light, the roar of the crowd, the glare of neon lights. Everything was designed to make everyone feel like they were in a movie about their own success. On the stage was a huge LED screen with the inscription, Impactor Summit 2025, Become the Story. Sawyer stood behind the scenes, calm as a conductor who knows that the orchestra will not make a mistake. He saw me and nodded. Remember, Danny, energy is more important than truth. People don't buy facts, they buy feelings. I looked at him silently. In my pocket was a flash drive, a small black piece of plastic that seemed to weigh more than the stage. He was the first to speak. Sawyer spoke, as always, masterfully, with pauses, with emphasis, with that magical sparkle in his eyes that made teenagers believe he could see their future. On the screen were growth charts, clips of success stories, and footage of boys and girls crying with happiness as they received their leader certificates. Accompanied by music, he said, Impactor is not a company. It is a family where the weak become strong, and those who are afraid finally come out into the light. Applause. Someone was filming a story, someone was standing with their phone above their head. And then he called us. And now, our heroes. A brother and sister who proved that faith is more important than the past. Danny and Mary Cole. The lights blinded me when I stepped onto the stage. The crowd, hundreds of people, most of them younger than me. Parents with cameras, children with junior leader badges, smiling curators. In the center of the stage were two microphones. One for me, the other for Mary. She gave a speech that had been written for her. Her hands trembled a little, but her voice was clear. I'm just an ordinary girl. I wasn't confident until my brother showed me Impactor. Now I know that if you believe in the process, you're already on your way. People applauded. Sawyer stood to the side, smiling. And I looked at her and thought, she doesn't know that every word she says is someone else's script. When it was my turn, the music changed. Drum roll, spotlight on me. I raised the microphone, and the room fell silent. When I came to Impactor, I began. I thought I had found a way out. I was convinced that this was a family, that here I could become someone. Thousands of eyes were on me. Sawyer tilted his head slightly, a warning to stick to the script. I stepped toward the laptop next to the console. And you know, families teach us one thing, to trust. But there are families where love is currency. I inserted the flash drive. A black screen appeared on the screen behind us instead of our logo. For a second, there was silence. Sawyer frowned, and then the slides started playing. The first one was the title, Internal Strategy, U18 Program. The second was a quote, Use mentor figure archetype, recreate father absence. A murmur went through the room. Someone laughed, thinking it was a joke. I clicked next. A slide with debt charts. Average U18 credit repayment, 6 months. Emotional urgency equals profit factor. Audio on the screen. Sawyer's voice from the circle. A teenager without a father is the best customer. We don't sell a course, we sell belonging. The room erupted in noise. Shouts, exclamations, someone pulling out a phone to record. Sawyer rushed to the stage. Turn it off, he shouted. Turn it off now. But it was too late. The video had already moved on. Recordings of corrective calls, where counselors yelled at children who asked for their money back. Avery's voice was shaky and nervous. If you ask for your money back, you're not ready to grow. Mary stood frozen, holding the microphone. Danny, what have you done? I looked at her. What I had to. Security rushed to the stage. Sawyer tried to take the microphone away. You don't understand what you're doing, he shouted. You're destroying yourself. I'm just showing how you destroyed others, I replied. The cameras were still rolling. Nikki, somewhere backstage or online, was already recording the broadcast. I knew it. They could take me away, turn off the sound, but people had already seen it. And what they saw couldn't be rewound. When the screen went dark, silence fell over the room. Sawyer stood nearby, sweaty, pale, staring straight at me. I gave you everything, he whispered. And this is how you repay me? You gave me a stage, I said. I just used it the way it should have been used from the beginning. I took the impactor badge off my neck and threw it on the floor. As I walked out, people parted. Some shouted, some were silent. Some cried. Mary ran after me, but I didn't look back. All I could hear was the sound of security guards arguing on their radios, and somewhere in the crowd, someone sang, "He just told the truth." Nikki was standing in the parking lot, holding her phone. "It's all over the airwaves," she said. "It's already on TikTok, Twitter, even Reddit. Sawyer can't delete it." I slumped my shoulders. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe deeply. "Then let's start over." Nikki smiled. "Not all families sell love, Danny. Some give it back." And we walked to the car as the neon sign behind us faded out. Become the story. For the first time ever, I felt like I was no longer a story, but a person. It took a few weeks for everything to settle down, as much as it could. In the first few days after the summit, social media exploded. The hashtag break the script became a trend. Clips from my speech, excerpts from Sawyer's video, memes, analyses, reactions. The internet chewed on this story like another series about exposing a motivational guru. The news showed footage from the summit. People leaving the hall, crying, arguing. Some were deceived, some were fired, some were simply broken. In the comments, some called me a hero, others called me a traitor. But I didn't care anymore. Impactor was closing its offices. All that remained under the brand was a website with a message saying, "On restructuring." Sawyer recorded a statement, pale, charisma-less, with trembling hands. "We have always strived to help people. If anyone felt hurt, I apologize." It was supposed to sound like repentance, but it came across as weak rebranding. Behind him in the video, you could see an empty hall. Even the fire in his eyes, the same fire that once ignited us all, was gone. Avery contacted me a week later. A short message. I testified, and I wanted to say, "You did the right thing." She left the program, like most of the curators. Some filed lawsuits, some just disappeared from social media. I didn't hold it against her. We were all in that system until we realized we had become its cogs. Mary didn't talk to me for a long time. After the summit, she cried, not out of shame, but out of disappointment. Her faith had been trampled on in front of the crowd, and I understood that at 16, it hurts differently. One evening, she knocked on my door. "You ruined everything," she said. "I know, but I guess there was no other way." She sat down next to me and stared at the floor. "Sawyer said I was special, that I could become the face of a generation." "You were special," I replied, "just not for sale." She laughed through her tears. "So what now? Are we back in the trailer?" I smiled. "Not exactly. We have a library." A month later, we launched our first club at the city library. No brands, no sales, no 10x. Just a space where kids could learn to speak up, ask questions, and recognize manipulation. We called it Anti-Script. 7 teenagers came to the first meeting. No microphones, just old chairs, white sheets of paper, and coffee from a vending machine. Mary stood in front of them, holding a marker. "Today we're going to talk about how to learn not to repeat other people's words." She smiled, not like she did in front of the cameras. Different, calm, mature. Mom sat in the corner, listening, occasionally wiping her eyes. After class, she came up to me. "I was blind, Danny. I just wanted you to have a better life." "I know, Mom. It's not your fault." They knew exactly where to hit. She nodded and squeezed my hand. And for the first time in a long time, we just sat there in silence. No pretensions, no slogans, no scripted phrases. As we left the library that evening, the air smelled like rain. Mary walked beside me, carrying a stack of papers, and I carried an old laptop on which I had once demonstrated impactor presentations. Now, the screensaver displayed a different phrase that she had written herself. "You are not a product. You are a person." I looked at those words and believed for the first time that maybe this was the real impact. Not the kind they sell from the stage, but the kind you leave behind when you turn off the lights and don't sell anything else. At home, before going to bed, I scrolled through the news. Sawyer was no longer there. His accounts were deleted, the website was dead. And somewhere among the video recommendations was a short clip from our library. Mary says to the camera, "We just want no one to write scripts for you anymore." I turned off the sound. And in that silence, for the first time in a long time, I felt true freedom. No scripts, no leaders, no fear. Just a living person who finally stepped out of the spotlight and stopped selling himself.